Hey guys, how are you? How is everyone? I'm feeling really pale. Is anyone else feeling pale? I feel like all I have been is inside for a week. I need some like golden light on me so I don't feel so pale. I literally feel really pale. Okay. Welcome to my channel. I will stop complaining about how my skin looks. Okay. How is everyone? Hope you guys are having a great day. Reminder, if you missed my interview with Melissa Ellis last night, check it out. It was about an hour and a half long, but we talked about so many different topics related to the sister wives and that whole world. And I thought, you know what? Let's remind you guys that you can watch it. You don't have to watch it all in one sitting. We covered a ton of different topics that you'll probably really, really enjoy. So there is that. This actually happened just a few minutes ago on Instagram. I was late this morning. I decided to, do some stuff for myself. Got in a little workout, putzed around with my makeup, the basics. And I was like, all right, let's look at this photo that Anna Duggar posted on Instagram because I had a lot of thoughts. And I looked at some photos of because I grew up in this time, okay? I'm older than Anna, but I remember fashion probably better than her because I was older, right? So this is what she posted. There's little Anna. She's apparently on the left. So she said she's on the left. So she's in the very left there in that very lovely prairie dress. And she said, wait, we did the 90s well. Anyone else looking through your old photo albums these days? So Anna is in her early 30s, meaning she was born in the late 80s. Meaning if she's in this photo, this would have been the mid to late 90s. And then she wrote, sisters, 90s, kind of embarrassed, throwback Thursday, throwback. And I thought to myself, well, I was around in the 90s, and I don't remember those dresses being super popular at all. Really. I have some photos of how I remember the 90s coming up here, but I never, ever had a dress like either one of these girls. I remember once when I was 5 in the 1980s, 1983, for instance, not the 1990s. I had a dress that had a collar, like the little girl, but I was 5, and it was 1983. It was not 1990, whatever this was, 7. Probably. Anyways, she said, someone said 1890s. And then this person says, those dresses were common for little girls back in the day. No, they weren't. Not in the 1990s. Anyways. Yes, me and my parents. Oh my goodness. I think I had one of those exact dresses. Looks beautiful. And then this person wrote, so modest. My pastor says, if women know how we think, we will never be dressed like the way we dress. Gross. And then I had dresses like that. And then looks like the dresses my grandmother made me. 1890s. And then someone made a comment about how it was IBLP fashion. It wasn't actually really fashion from the 1990s. Okay. And I was trying to think about what was 1990s fashion, because I was, born in 1978. So when the turn of the century when the turn of 1990 happened, I was 11. And I turned 20 in 1998. So I was in my adolescence. I always say I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in the 80s. I was a kid of the 80s, but I was sort of a preteen and teen of the 90s. So this is how I remember the 90s. I was digging through some photos. This was probably late 80s. That's how I remember those denim dresses, the mom jeans. I also remember this. Do you remember Carissa Explains It All? With the tie-dye and the layers and the vests. Oh my gosh, we all wore the vests. Remember the vests? That's literally how, or Lizzie McGuire even, that's how I remember the 90s. Here, this would have been another example of how I remember the 90s. And these dresses were how I remember the 90s. Babydoll dresses. Everyone wore these. Everybody wore these kinds of dresses in the 90s. All of us. In fact, I remember having a sunflower dress. Sunflowers were like a really big thing, and it was actually shaped just like this. Like these were the kinds of dresses I remember wearing in the 90s. And I remember that it wasn't just like a teenage girl thing that was doing it. Like younger girls were wearing these kinds of dresses. They were casual. They usually came up to around the mid to like right below the knees, depending on what kind of dress you got. We wore our Doc Martens with them, all laced all the way up. Sometimes we wore sunflower dresses like this with the hat, like Blossom. I had a dress similar to this. Like these were the kinds of dresses that I remember from the 1990s. I remember chokers, like Babydoll dresses, belly shirts, Doc Martens. We wore tights underneath our Babydoll dresses. Leggings. Like nobody wore leggings in the 1990s. Leggings were so uncool because they were cool in the 80s. So in the 90s, we did not wear leggings. You were not a stirrup wearer. You did not wear leggings. And you also didn't wear prairie dresses. I remember having a lot of dresses with like flowers on them with that sort of like bowl cut. I don't remember the dresses that Anna was wearing in her throwback picture. But I had a dress like they did maybe when I was... Now this is kind of reminiscent of what Anna was wearing. And that's a prairie dress. And then I started thinking, those dresses kind of remind me of a group that's in Utah. You know that group? You know that guy who's not around anymore because he's hanging out with the federal people? It reminds me of those people. Yeah. Warren's group. That's what her dresses reminded me of. These. Yeah, they're super common if you're in a cult. And there's an example. I mean, this is like a pure example of the kinds of dresses they wore in that group. And this is around the same time that Anna says that her photos were taken. So if you look at these side by side, look at that. That's not the 1990s, Anna. That's called fundamentalism. So I was, Jabot jeans, Guess jeans, multiples. Do you remember multiples? How they would have all those different layers with those belts, and like spandex type dresses and spandex. Everyone loved spandex. And, like pencil skirts were really big too. Pencil skirts. Overalls. We really liked the overalls. And so, in fact, some of us would rock the one overall thing off, right? Like left eye and stuff from TLC. And crisscross. Sometimes we dressed backwards. But we were most certainly not wearing these dresses in the 1990s. So it made me kind of thinking about how, like, you know, they still, their apparel today is still not very fashionable because they believe in modesty. So what I would say is that if this is how you dressed in the 1990s, you might have been in a cult. Just a thought. Like if this was your regular attire, you may have been in a cult, because this is definitely not how I dressed. And I knew a lot of people because I was a girl. I still am. Now I'm a woman. We did not dress like this. Not even a little bit. So, they're prairie dresses. So I just have a suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, but prairie dresses are never cute. They're just not. They're not. It's not flattering. You're wearing a tent. It's just not a good look. And their hair might be kind of 90s. Well, I mean, yeah. Is that Priscilla in there? I think Priscilla's in there. Let me pull up this picture. Their hair looks pretty 90s. Yeah, look at those bangs. They got one thing right about the 90s, the bangs. Look at those bangs. Those are some amazing 1980s bangs. But again, by the 90s, if you had bangs like that, closer to the end of the decade, people were calling you outdated. So if your bangs were rocking like that in the late 90s, you were cute. Because I want to remind you that like Blossom was like every girl's like icon. Blossom, Maya Bialik. And she had like straight hair and six, remember, with her curly cues. But like, you know, look at Carissa Explains It All. She's had long straight hair. Lizzie had long straight hair. We all had long straight hair. We had no eyebrows. We like teased all our eyebrows out. Those of us who grew up in the 90s are still growing our eyebrows out. We still don't have any eyebrows because we took them all out in the 90s. A lot of us had these little cute bobs like this. Bangs were not super in, so we all had like no bangs, bobs. Some people still got perms, but not a ton. So let me see. The picture in this photo, I don't know when. She didn't say what year it was taken, but you have to guesstimate. So Anna, I think, Josh just turned 32, and I think Anna's 32. So she was born in 1988. And so she looks like she's probably, I don't know, 10, right? Let's go back to that photo. Like, my son is, okay, here it is. I don't know, how old does she look there? She looks like 10 or 11, doesn't she? Too old to be wearing that dress. I would say probably 10 or 11. Yeah. You never mess with your eyebrows. Your marshmallow shoes. I was a child. I wasn't a raving 20-year-old back in the 90s, but I'm saying like even my cousins, even my friends and my I babysat little girls and I was like a babysitter, and I don't remember any girls dressing like this. Like I was 11 when the 90s started. 11. I wasn't a raving 20-year-old in the 90s. And I never went to raves, in fact. So, but that's definitely not how we dressed in the 90s. All right, so what are your thoughts? They kind of do look like nightgowns, Amber, you are correct. So, yes, pin straight hair was definitely in the late 90s, early 2000s, for sure. I wish we could, I wonder where she bought them. I saw patterns for those where people made them, and I know they make those kinds of dresses in the FLDS. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you were in a cult, maybe you dressed like that. Maybe. Ask your parents if they dressed you like that. Hey, Mom, Dad, were we in a cult? Bill Gothard likes dresses like that. So this is not, if you dressed like that, don't get mad at me. All right, you guys, let me know what your thoughts. Should she be embarrassed? I don't think she should be embarrassed because, first off, no child should be embarrassed about how they dress because they can't help it. Their parents dress them. But I just would hope that, you know, we don't make the same mistakes as our parents, right? Right? All right, you guys, I'll be back in a little bit more, a little bit later. If you missed my interview with Melissa Ellis, make sure you check that out. It is posted from yesterday. And I'll be back in a little bit with, I've got the sneak peek for Mama June's new season with a clip about Jessica and a car. Bye, guys.